how did you get the rights to the catalogue from 1972 to 77?
Right. Started, well, in 1978 we started running a fan club. In 1980 I approached, along with two guys who were involved with me at the time, I approached Granada to try and get Sing Me a Song brought out as a single. And we managed to do that. We brought Sing Me a Song out. We then had quite a few discussions with Tony Visconti, and we brought out an album called T.Rex in Concert. Result of that, by this time we were involved with the Wizard Bahamas company, or through their lawyers in London. And the lawyer representing Wizard at the time called me and asked me whether we would be interested in getting involved with the catalogue, because the rights to the catalogue, EMI's rights to the catalogue, were coming to an end. EMI never owned anything. They were purely and simply Marc's. Marc and his, when I say Marc, I'm talking Wizard Bahamas basically. Marc had two companies. He had Wizard Artists and Wizard Delaware, which in 1983 were amalgamated into, actually after the event, they were amalgamated into Wizard Bahamas. But in the early days, Marc's companies owned all his recordings, and EMI were purely and simply what they used to call the P&D, which is pressing and distribution. So that's why EMI didn't sell the rights to anybody or anything like that. They lost the rights because their rights were coming to an end in 1982. They'd had a 10-year deal with Marc's companies, and the lawyer representing the Wizard companies asked me whether we, well in fact us by then, wasn't it? Whether we would be interested in working with the catalogue, because EMI were about to lose their rights. And that is how we acquired them. We talked to them, we went to see a bank. The only problem for us was, as two youngsters with very little music experience, was we were asked, we had to find a huge advance, which was in tens of thousands of pounds. That's all I'll say, is it was a huge advance. And we were being offered a 10-year deal, really to exploit the EMI rights. That's it, really. That's how we acquired it. And we signed it on the 1st, we actually took over the contract as of the 1st of October 1982. Okay, that's it.
Can I just...
Okay. Will there be a Rexmas fan club pop again?
Okay, a Rexmas fan club party again. It would really depend. At the moment, I don't think so. If enough people wanted one, then we would do it. But we're not in the right place to have a party. It was bad enough getting people to Doncaster. Although we did. I mean, we had anything from 200 to 500 people there. In '91, the year of the Levi's commercial and all the real, if you like, the resurgence of real Marc interest, we had nearly 890 people at that party. But I don't know, it would depend. It would depend how things go in the next year or two. I mean, if the good vibes come back and people stop squabbling and we can start being a unified Bolan movement, then yeah, perhaps we would. But not under the way things are at the moment.
Okay. How and why did you relinquish the catalogue in 1992?
Right, we gave up the rights in 1992 because, as I said earlier, the deal that we had with Wizard was 10 years. Wizard, 18 months before the rights were coming to an end, approached us, but Shan and I had already decided that we weren't going to renew, simply because we felt that 10 years was long enough. There's only so much you can do with the material. We felt that we were becoming brain dead, because again, if you think about it, all we had was whatever we found off various sources and people, and the masters that were delivered up by Wizard via EMI. And there comes a time when there's only so many ideas, there's only so much repackaging, And we were starting to get we were getting a little bit staid and a little bit boring. We'd lost the imagination, hadn't we? And the other thing was, I think people in general, they were writing and saying, why didn't you do this, why didn't you do that? All we were doing was repackaging the same stuff.
Okay, thank you. Who owns the master tapes of the overdubbed, remixed material?
What I would imagine, the guy that bought everything off us, which was Peter Todd.
So you don't own them?
We don't own anything. No. We again, as we'd stopped with the rights, we didn't see. Well, we'll get on to that. It's a little bit of a heavier question a bit later on, or a heavier answer. But basically, Peter Todd was who we relinquished everything to. So I don't know whether he still has it all.
Does the fan club still exist? For example, membership?
No, not at the moment. It's there. We've still got the membership files, and we still get a lot of posts from people. But as an operating fan club, no, it doesn't exist at the moment.
This harks back to an earlier question. Is there any chance of a UK CD release of Marc on Wax remix stroke overdub material?
No. Well, it might through somebody else, but not through us, because we don't own the rights anymore and we don't get involved in bootlegging.
This is a question received. I really liked what was done with the Dance in the Moonlight LP. Any chance of a CD reissue along with the CD?
Right, Dance in the Midnight, they mean.
They do in Dance
Yeah,
in the Midnight, of course they do.
Any chance of a CD reissue along with Billy Super Duper? Again, there might be, but it won't be through us because we don't own the rights anymore.
Can I ask a question on that? I've seen a CD of Dance in Midnight, which is very similar to the proof sleeve that you have produced. Did it actually come out on? Did you issue it on CD?
We didn't, only in Japan, because England was so far behind everybody else.
Okay, so Dance in the Moonlight and Billy Super Duper came out in Japan.
Dance in the Midnight and Billy Super Duper came out in Japan because the Japanese were much more into CDs. And in fact, Billy Super Duper also came out in Sweden. Yeah, TMC Records. And
It's a CD. I know it came out different sleeve on the LP. But
yeah, they came out as a CD as well. Yeah, pretty sure of that. But we didn't feel that it was a good thing to put on CD, because CD at the time, if you think the mid '80s, I mean, we were actually the first independent record label to release the catalogue on CD. I don't know whether you realise this, but Marc's fans were the first people to be able to get the whole catalogue on CD. And at the time, they were very expensive to put together, and we were the first independent to actually, because we were classed as an independent record label, and we were the first to do the whole catalogue.
Okay. Any idea who owns Wizard Bahamas?
Yes, we do know, and I can't tell you. Okay, the reason for that is that it's extremely. It would take far too many hours to even explain the labyrinth of everybody involved in the Wizard companies. It's fronted by a bank, and it's fronted by a bank in England who are fronted by a firm of lawyers in England. But other than that, yes, we do know, and like I say, for legal reasons, we can't tell you who.
Why hasn't Born to Boogie been on TV?
Because Ringo Starr didn't want it on TV, and Elton John wouldn't give permission anyway.
Did Elton John only appear in Born to Boogie to play piano, or did he contribute in any other way to the script?
No. And it was we were fortunate enough that he even appeared on piano, because when we approached his manager, originally Elton John wanted a stupid advance for even being. You'll find on the record, actually, this is a slight aside, but on the actual sound recording of Born to Boogie, you'll notice that the Elton John bits are missing. And the reason they're missing is that we couldn't get the rights. Elton John's company wanted too much money for Elton's performance to be on disc, so we had to cut it out, which is why it's edited.
In the Light of Love statement, you claimed you had been approached by Rick Galvano via Jimbo, who wanted to work with you on the official Marc Bolan Fan Club site,
Yeah.
but you refused. Is this true? And is there proof of this? Bearing in mind his denial this ever happened.
Well, I hate to do this, but I'm going to put the ball in Jim's court here, because you and I, Jim, had the conversation on the telephone, and Jim asked me whether he talked to me about Rick, and I told Jim that I already knew who Rick was, because Rick had written some quite sweet letters to us over the years in the fan club, and Jim mentioned to us that Rick and yourself, I believe, were involved in at the time you were on the website, I think you were either designing, or you were certainly Till Dawn was up and running in some way, wasn't it? And it was Jim who actually asked whether there was any way, correct me if I'm wrong here, whether there was any way Jim or Rick could get involved with the fan club, with designing a website for the fan club. And so Jim, I'm sure, will be honest and say that is correct. So
yeah, I've had it.
okay.
But he's transcribing it. He can write in his own bit.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you can
Right,
explain
yeah.
that. The
Jim
point
is nodding.
yes, for the purposes of the tape, Jim is nodding, but it was Jim who asked us whether we'd be interested, and we said no. Not, I have to say, against Jim, but just that we didn't know Rick other than a few sweet letters, and at the time we weren't really considering doing too much. We had a webmaster who was supposedly doing it for us. Okay.
Okay. How did you get the right to the official Marc Bolan Fan Club in 1979?
Right. Very simple, really. In 1978, I was at Golders Green on the first anniversary, and I was with some friends, and we were sat around talking about what we could do, because it seemed ridiculous. When a year after Mark died, there seemed to be very little going on, apart from the Cube Records album, The Words and Music, came out, and there was the tribute book. And we thought that, I mean, at the time, we thought EMI were a bunch of tossers, because, yeah, that's okay, you can do what you want with it. We couldn't understand how EMI couldn't possibly do something when, one of the biggest artists that they had on their label was dead. So me and a few friends decided that we would start a fan club. At the time, we didn't really look at it as an official fan club. It was actually, we called ourselves the Marc Bolan Family Society, which is terribly awful now. I can't believe we called ourselves that. But we did. And then what happened was, about 4 months after that, and not at Golders Green, I hasten to add, which is something that I'm absolutely furious about. Whenever we saw Mark's mum and dad, or Harry or anybody, we never went and pestered them when they came to the crematorium, because it was a private moment. If they wanted to be there while the fans were there, that was fine, but it wasn't something, we never hassled them. I was, however, invited, along with somebody I was with at the time, to go to Mark's mum and dad's house and see them. And when I went to see them, I asked Simmy and Phyllis if they would back us if we were to run an official club. And to my mind, the only people who really could give us official status were his parents. And that's what happened. We asked, and they granted permission. Subsequently from that, it just seemed we became the official fan club, and that was the title we used, and nobody ever questioned us being the official Marc Bolan Fan Club. I mean, it wasn't a license, it wasn't, we didn't have to pay money to anybody to be official. We were simply recognised by Mark's mum and dad as being official. And Mark Feld Estate never queried it, EMI never queried it, Wizard Bahamas never queried it, but then again, none of these people would, because we were too important to them, because we were, if you like, we were the catalyst, we were the voice for whatever they wanted to put around about Mark at the time. So that was it. And that's why there's been some crap flying around at the moment about how can you still call yourself official. There is actually, I think, and I don't know the law, but there is a kind of a thing where if you do something for a certain amount of years, you recognise, and by default that title belongs to you. I mean, Sal would know more than this, George, but nobody has ever written to us from Wizard companies or the Feld Trust or anybody and said, what are you doing calling yourself official? I mean, that's it. So, as far as we're concerned, we are the official Marc Bolan Fan Club, always have been, and if anybody wants to take it away from us, they can have a go, but I don't see any reason why not.
Okay, well, I'm going to follow on that question with having ceased to really be publishing anything for a certain amount of time. Do you feel that you should still be called the official Marc Bolan Fan Club if you decide to really start back up?
Yes, because Mark's mum and dad gave their blessing to me at the time, and therefore if they gave their blessing to me and then Shan joined me, and then for 15 years or whatever we were being the official fan club, the fact that we might want to cease for a little while doesn't give anybody the right to come in and take over the title. There's nobody left. I suppose if somebody wanted to go to possibly Harry or somebody and say, I want to run an official club, or I want to run an official thing, you know, I want to be the official Marc Bolan Appreciation Society, then Harry could grant that to him. But you know, other than that, I don't really see it as being a sore point with anybody. I mean, you know, we're there, so take us or leave us.
Well, as you know or will have heard, it is a sore point with some people. It is a sore point, and they would argue that after a period of inactivity, that you don't have the right to call yourself that.
Well, I think we have the right by the fact that for the first 15 years of doing it, we did more than any other person around here ever to keep Mark's name alive, and I don't see why we can't keep it. I mean, you know, if somebody seriously was bothered about taking it away from us, let them have a go. You know, I mean, you know, I don't really care. You know, we will always, one way or another. You know, we were official for 15 years when it suited everybody. The fact that we've not been around for a couple of years for our own personal, you know, for personal reasons, which are personal, and I don't see that we have to explain ourselves to anybody in particular over it. We did it for 15 years, they were quite happy at the time, so, you know, we'll come back as the official club. The official website's up there, it looks like it's going to be a winner with it, and there's a lot of people out there that still think of us as the official club, even when we're not. We get letters, don't we, all the time from people that still call us the official Marc Bolan Fan Club. So, the people who don't like it probably are a minority.
Okay. I think that's covered. Thank you. Will the Interstellar Soul magazine be published again? And if so, who will be working on it?
I'd like to think we decided that Interstellar Soul might be good as a yearly mag, but the thing is that there is not enough, we don't think, there's not enough activity at the moment to do a monthly or a bi-monthly magazine on Marc. We just honestly don't believe that there's not enough people out there that want it, and there's not enough things to put in it to be different. But what we did think was we did plan doing we did an Interstellar Soul for the 20th anniversary, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes, we did do one. And then there were personal things going on, so we decided not to do one from there on. But I don't know, yeah, we might do. It depends. If there's enough people out there want it, then yes, one day we'll put an Interstellar together. The other thing we did talk about doing was putting out a poster mag, wasn't it? Again, you go to distributors and say, we've got a great idea for a Marc Bolan poster mag, and they say, who? You know, I mean, you know, the world's moved on, and we wouldn't have the same effect with a Marc Bolan poster mag as Oasis or you know, a Westlife or any of this lot, you know, I mean, or Spice Girls. We're in a different league.
Who will be working on it if it does come?
I have no idea yet. That would depend who wanted to come forward with anything sensible and something that was constructive and would work. If anybody wants to, you know, if anybody wants to suggest if they've got the credentials and the design acumen to do something, then we'd look at it. You know, but I suspect I know who would be doing it, but at the moment I don't for sure.
So it would be open to all comers then, providing
not all comers, but certainly if they've got design acumen and they know what they're doing.
Yeah, of course.
They know what they're doing. You know, put it to us. You know, when we're not ogres, if somebody wants to come to us and say, I think Interstellar would look great if it was like this, and we would look at it, and if we thought it was good, and if we thought there were enough people out there that would want it, then we'd probably come out again.
Can I say something?
You've gone there.
Thank you. But on the other hand, with the fact that the internet is becoming more and more accessible to people in the UK, and of course, obviously, the easiest media to get information to people is through the internet and a regularly updated website. Is it not?
Yes, but only 2 out of every 5 households have got internet.
At the moment.
At the moment, yeah, but there's still a lot of people out there who can't afford to be on the internet. So you've got to, you do have to balance it. It's like saying in the old days, don't put anything out on CD, or don't put anything out on vinyl anymore, because CD is a new format. Whenever we did anything, we did the CDs, but we still did the vinyls, because there were people out there that couldn't afford a CD player.
Yeah. But
now I agree with you.
And of course, with things like the Dreamcast being marketed
as CD-ROMs and everything, and with internet connection and all that.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're £200.
Sure.
So I should imagine that'll get more people on the internet.
Yeah. But I mean, Interstellar Soul could become a part of the website. I don't know, but it depends on our webmaster and how she feels like, the extra responsibility and work that would, and whether her husband would divorce her. Next question.
Okay. Do you think it's right that the official Marc Bolan Fan Club should have sold the masters that they owned? Legally, you could, and it may have been best for you, but was it best for Marc and his fans?
Okay. Yes, obviously legally, yes. It was the decision we made. Whether it was best for Marc and his fans, can we stop for a second?
Okay.
Do you think it's right that the official Marc Bolan Fan Club should have sold the masters they owned? Legally you could, and it may have been best for you, but was it best for Marc and his fans?
Right. Yes, legally we could dispose of them. Whether it was right for Marc and his fans, we thought at the time it was, but with hindsight, we're not so sure, judging by some of what's been going on and happening. But can't change the past. We did it for a reason. It wasn't completely in our control, the reason that we had to sell them. The people that we were involved with at the time had invested a lot of money in a partnership with us, but one particular loose cannon one person involved with the Wizard Bahamas company, because of, Jesus, how do you deal with this? Because of questions that we were asking about who Wizard were and where the money was going, and we had received disturbing news that Wizard was actually no more than a clearing bank. Somebody took it upon themselves, therefore, from that time on, that they wouldn't get involved with us in any way, shape or form. The result being that the people we were in partnership with had invested heavily, and we had to get out and hand everything over to them, otherwise nothing would ever come out again. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Bit long-winded. Basically, we were pushed into getting out, not by the people that we sold the tapes to, but in fairness to them, for them to move forward and do projects, we had to be out of the scene. Okay, that's explains it for you.
Yeah.
You missed a question.
Did I?
When you announced, you're not asking about that.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go back to that one. When you announced that the official Marc Bolan website would be running again, did you know who the team were, or were you assuming?
We knew who the team were going to be because Alistair Lightnell is a very old friend, and he had been trying to contact us for some time about a lot of the crap going on the site, on the website about us. And Alistair thought that whilst Shan and I wanted to get on with our lives, and in our personal lives we'd had a lot of tragedy, and everybody goes through this. As we get older, you lose family and everything, and your perspective on life changes. Suddenly things that seemed important are no longer important, okay, because when you see people dying around you, you suddenly realise that everybody's here for a short time. Our priorities changed, and quite honestly, people wanted to slag it. In a way it's a compliment, in a peculiar sort of way, because every time our names are used, either nicely or not nicely, it means people are still, thinking. And if they're thinking about Marc Bolan and then they're thinking about us, then it's still a form of flattery because we're still spoken about in the same breath, But when Alistair said he wanted to do something, and Shan and I thought, we said to Alistair, look, well, how can we do this? He said, through the website, through the official website. I said, yeah, but we haven't got the time or the inclination at the moment to do the official website. And then he mentioned to us somebody who we should be in touch with. And that person was Fee. And Fee contacted us. Fee had been having her own change in life. It's possibly a good way of putting it.
I guess it is, yeah.
Yeah, and we discovered, having talked, we were very, very, very anti-Fee when Fee first contacted us, because all we knew was Fee was involved with Till Dawn. And we knew that Till Dawn were posting a lot of crap about us, because Alistair had warned us. But again, que sera. So when Fee first was in touch with us, I think it's fair to say that there was a desire to understand each other's point of view, but not knowing where it was going to take us. Would that be right? We were prepared to listen to each other and listen to what each other had to say. And it was only then, when we got to know Fee a little bit and found out a little bit more about the problems with Till Dawn and all the rest of it, that we discussed about Fee being involved with the official website. But it was only on the condition that Alistair was involved. And if Alistair was prepared to be involved with Fee, then fine, we didn't have a problem. And that was then. So there was no assumption. We only announced what was going to happen once Fee and Alistair were on board.
So you actually knew when the Light of Love statement came out?
Yes. In fairness, sorry, can I just carry on by saying,
yeah.
And it was out of respect to both Fee and Alistair that we didn't say who it was, because we wanted Fee and Alistair to have their own time and space to let people know, because we'd already warned Fee that once she became known to be anything to do with the Bramleys, Fee was going to be in trouble.
Can I ask you a question?
You can.
Why did you make the step towards, instead of being at war with Fee, why were you suddenly her friend?
Well, we weren't suddenly a friend. That would be the wrong way of putting it. Fee came recommended to us by Alistair. If Alistair, same what I have to say would be with George. If George said to me, John, you should speak to these people, they're really quite, they're nice, well balanced, prepared to listen to both sides of the story, I would take that at face value and I would meet with them.
I see,
okay.
Yes.
So Fee making the first move said a lot, because Fee contacted us as a result of Fee's involvement with Alistair.
So it was a sort of truce?
Truce. It might have been on Fee's part. It wasn't a truce on our side, because I wasn't at war with Fee.
No.
I didn't know Fee. See, this is what pees me off.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes, no, it's okay. No, it's all right. That's fine. I mean, it's good. It's a good way you put it, because I can actually answer it and explain the way I feel. I have no axe to grind with anybody. Well, that's not true. There are a couple of people, but
is that why you called it the Light of Love?
Yeah. What I'm saying is, for Christ's sake, everybody. And the other thing was, it was rather poignant that it was on the anniversary of the Light of Love release. Although we still had to explain that to some people, but there you go. That's life, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but the thing is that, of course, Alistair had, I think, been sort of mentioning you before the Light of Love announcement.
Yeah.
But I think, of course, that the reason why, sort of like I wanted to get in touch was because, of course, you'd had the same problems.
Yeah, but I didn't want to say that. I thought that was for you to say rather than me to say. That's why I touched on the fact that I known you were having problems with Till Dawn, but it wasn't kind of like, oh, here's somebody who's leaving Till Dawn, we'll become friends. I mean, I didn't know we were going to. I mean, I've got to say that. I mean, Fee will laugh at this now, but Fee and I had a particularly explosive exchange of emails, and only because I'm a complete fucking idiot on the web, and I didn't understand how
I think
emails
that's
work.
the sanitising that George was talking about.
Oh, sorry, sanitising. Oh, what, making it? Oh, sorry, I can't
Yeah,
speak
George.
any
Yes,
other way.
George said this would be a sanitised version.
Oh, okay. Basically, Fee sent me an email, and in that email was a copy of an email that had come from somebody else. But because of my naivety of understanding emails, I thought the email was from Fee.
All of it.
All of it.
Right.
So I
Oh,
emailed Fee back.
That was off the news group.
Yeah, she
what
sent me
was
a copy of an email that was off the news group, and I thought it was from Fee, so I absolutely tore into Fee, didn't I? And basically, at the end of it said, Fee, we can walk away now and have respect for each other, but I was hoping we would be friends. And I think actually from there, I think that actually... Who was it who sent that email? Because they're responsible for actually bonding us together, I think, Fee.
Who sent that email, Fee?
El Bucanero.
El Bucanero. Who's El Bucanero when he's alone?
Nobody knows.
Oh, another gutless one.
Actually, I must admit, I was amazed because if I'd have got that email with what you were called in it, I was amazed how actually calm your blow off was. I was thinking, wow, there's loads of stuff you could have said, like, you know, which was actually worse than that.
Well, that's fine.
So the
but in
worst
a
thing you
way,
did
that
say-
proves my point. That proves the way we are.
Yeah,
El Bucanero, don't know that.
no idea.
Who is El Bucanero?
Who knows? But since I joined the news group,
Who cares? Yeah.
since I joined the news group to keep an eye on things because of everything that was going on there, El Bucanero hasn't posted again. It was probably a friend of Pete's. Pete,
Not
yeah.
Rick's.
It was probably a friend of Pete.
I thought Pete was Rick. I mean,
Oh, I see. It's someone
This is
incognito.
on
is it?
tape.
Sometimes
Sorry.
you
Just
can't say that.
edit this out.
I'm sorry.
Can you cut this out? Yes.
Well, perhaps we'll change the subject then, shall
I
we?
think we'll go on to the next
I mean,
question.
yeah, I mean, but I would hope. I mean, this is what I mean about the cementing of it. I mean, I think Fee possibly. Can you still hear this one? I've got when I'm obscured.
How would I know?
Big enough, of course.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, good boots, aren't they? They're for kicking any dissenters. But the point is I think the fact that I think possibly Fee saw another side of us because, as you say, I mean, it's like, well, that's a fairly reasonable response to the email, which was a disgusting email and could only have been written by somebody with a mental age of 3.
Yeah, they're your boots of the gospel of truth, aren't
Absolutely, yeah. These boots walk. These are space boots of a superior nature. I'm sorry. Anyway, next question. Sorry, mate, but there you go. So does that answer it?
they? Sorry to interrupt.
As far as I can work out, it does.
Yes, actually, I can't even remember what I said.
What was the question?
Fucking hell, no.
Sorry, it's my fault.
So we'd just like to thank El Bucanero
Yes, El Bucanero
from the
for bringing us together.
bottom from the bottom of our
Right,
hearts.
the next question is P.
Yes.
I think,
What is your favourite release from the fan club catalogue?
for its naivety, Billy Super Duper. Because Billy Super Duper was the first time we had actually got to grips with anything major ourselves. We were scared as hell. People have, funny enough, a question that hasn't been asked, and I'm really amazed, and I'm going to put it into this if you don't mind, is I'm surprised nobody's asked what gave us the right to think we can produce Mark's material ourselves. Okay, so I'll ask the question, what do you think you're doing, John Bramley? Who do you think you are? Nobody would help us. Nobody. It didn't matter who we contacted, and I have to tell you that Tony Visconti was one person we contacted.
Really?
Yes. And the money they wanted was obscene. I can't remember whether Tony was actually, but Tony got enough of the remixes. But everybody treated us as a joke. Everybody, Mark, but... And there was nobody, and we couldn't afford, could we? If I remember correctly, we could not afford either the royalties that they wanted or the advances they wanted. I mean, some people, there was one producer who will remain nameless, who actually wanted £2,000 a track advance off us, plus a 5% producer's royalty. Now that meant, we're working out yourself, 10 tracks.
10 tracks, wasn't it?
Yeah, 10 tracks, that's £20,000 advance. We didn't have the money. So we had to go in and we had to learn, and we had a very good engineer with us, and we went in and we learned how to produce material. And that's the way it happened. So Billy's Super Duper for naivety, for coming of age, Dancing in the Midnight. Because I think we achieved something with Dancing in the Midnight because we put strings on and we got a string arranger in, and we did exactly what Mark used to do, which was basically, well, in fact, I'm not sure whether Mark did this, but we certainly did. We know that Mark used to send his basic tracks off the string arranged. When he left Tony Visconti, so don't forget, Tony used to do all Mark's string arranging. When Mark and Tony split company, Mark used to send tapes to a string arranger to put the strings down, and that's how he worked. Okay. And what we did was we did it a little bit differently. We actually dragged a poor bugger who worked at a music school in Bath, and we dragged him in one day, didn't we? And we said, we want to hear this. And then we started playing it, and I hummed to him the violas that I wanted to hear, and I hummed to him the cello lines that we wanted to hear. And he went away and he scored it, and then he came back with an orchestra, didn't he?
And they didn't.
Who were not amused.
They didn't approve at all.
They did not approve,
Really?
because they weren't used to music that had X amount of beats to it, and then suddenly you'd have double time or to slow down, or typical Mark sort of stuff. And they considered the whole thing musically illiterate. It was rather sad looking at them, because there was one particular very sweet, very pretty girl who came in a long, do you remember her? In a long black dress to play cello. And I said, my dear, you're going to get in a little room with a microphone, typical classical. But that was it. So those are the two.
Thank you. Did you make much, if any, money from the fan club releases?
Personally, no. Nobody will ever be able to. The fan club never ever, in all the years we ran it, we never pulled a single penny out ourselves. Not from the fan club. We did from the record company because we were working hard. But the fan club, every penny went back into the fan club from day one.
But even the fan club didn't make a lot from the fan club releases either, especially when the CDs came along, because it cost so much to master them, and we sold so few that having 250 CDs made was like costing
extortionate.
a fortune.
And that's why they were slightly more expensive.
Okay. How big was the membership of the fan club?
At its height, I think at its height it was about 3,500. About 3,500. At its lowest, I reckon about 2,000. Never went below that.
This next question is quite long, so
Yes, I
let me
know.
finish it.
Oh, there's a name that we like.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Hold on.